want to stand at the podium?
No, no, thank you. Thank you, though. Adding in 3 languages. So about a short time ago, which is about 40 years ago, my father taught me how to program. His name is Cliff Downs, and tonight I will attempt to pass on a little bit of the programming knowledge that he gave me 40 years ago. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with programming, and I don't know which programming language you might eventually run into. So I'm going to show you some very simple programming in a language called BASIC, a language called Python, and a language called C++. And I hope that you would learn a little bit about programming this evening. And I will be writing on the board to demonstrate, or so you can see the program code. And what I'm going to do is we're going to add up numbers. So basically, we're going to multiply 3 times 4, but in a step-by-step way, in a very simple elementary school manner. We're going to multiply 4 times 3 or 3 times 4, and we're going to do it by adding. We're going to create a loop which adds iteratively, resulting in the final result, which will be 4 times 3. This is a language that Cliff and I were discussing when I was 11 or 12 or even 10, I'm not sure. It was in a small town called Acton. This is going to be the basic code, this is going to be the Python code, and this is going to be the C++ code. This is the oldest language. This is a language that was intended to be basic and very simple, and Python is also very simple. By simple, I mean just very intuitive, almost like the English language, not exactly, but almost. So our loop is this. This is the loop. We have to define the loop. We have to give conditions for the loop, and the loop is going to be what's going to enable us to add iteratively in an iterative manner. Right here, you see this is the shell of the loop. For right now, I haven't placed anything inside. I'm going to do the Python as well. But, okay, here's the Python. And this is an example of syntax. Syntax is very important in a programming language. Here you have a colon. And down here you see that it says next in. And so this is the top line, and this is the ending line. So this would be an example of syntax, the use of the word next. And for C++, here we go. Another good example of syntax is these curly braces that will open and close the loop in C++. And here you have parentheses, which are important, but you don't have parentheses here. You don't have the similar parentheses in BASIC, and you don't have any parentheses in Python except for specifying that the size of the loop. In 4, you might call that the size of the loop, or this is the looping index, the n, and the count will proceed from 1 to 4, and here the count will be from 0 to 3. It's a little tricky because the index will not go all the way to 4, but it starts at 0. So the range will be 0, 1, 2, 3. So in effect, you will loop the same number of times here as you do here. It's just that you will start from 0 because the range goes from 0, 1, 2, 3. And programmers are kind of funny sometimes. Some languages are a little tricky, so you got to remember it doesn't include that 4. Likewise, in C++, you often don't include that final 1. Actually, this will go from, normally in C++, we also start from 0. So we'll make this n less than 4. We're going to go from 0, 1, 2, 3, and it's not going to include 4 because it has to be less than 4. 3 is less than 4, but 4 itself is not less than 4. So, and in programming you have comments, so I'm going to put a comment here. A comment is something that you could add in, and you can write anything in English. You can write anything you want. You can say, this is a fantastic speech, something like that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, remark. REM stands for remark. And then in Python, you have another example of syntax. You would use a pound sign. I'm going to do something similar. 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. That's going to be the index value is going to go over these values. Likewise here, to indicate a comment, I will put backslash, backslash. No, these are forward slashes, which is fine. Forward slash, forward slash, forward slash. I can say n equals 0, 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to put what's inside the loop. Hopefully this pin works. We're going to add up. We're going to keep track. What's important is that we create a variable. N is a variable, but we need another variable to keep track of that sum that we're creating, because we're going to be adding in 3 languages, right? We're going to be adding in a loop, within a loop. So outside, we're going to define the integer. We could say dim. Dim is short for dimension. Sum will be our, let's just put sum t for Thomas, okay? I want to indicate that I made this up. This is my creativity, if you will. I could have put anything, but I can't put spaces. You can't have a sentence in here. An integer has to be something, a word, right? It has no spaces. What I'm saying, no spaces, okay? And we have to tell it what type of variable it will be. And then it will be like an integer, right? Integer is another word for a whole number or a natural number. Those are integers. And here in Python, you don't need to do that. You don't need to define what type it is, but you do need to give an initial value. So we're going to start with 0 here. And over here, I will also give an initial value. I will say sum t equals 0. Over here, similar, you have to define our summing variable. Our summing variable will have the same name, and we're going to initialize it to 0. And when you don't need a semicolon here, but you do need a semicolon up here. Because this is a standalone statement or command, whereas the braces, just by convention, you don't need a semicolon there. And you don't need a semicolon at the end of a remark. So green, okay. So now we're going to write down this is going to be the body of our loop. Sum t equals sum t plus 3. And in BASIC, no semicolons. And in Python, we will say the same thing. Sum t equals sum t plus 3. And it's interesting that for the syntax, you have to have a tab character. If everyone's familiar with the tab character, it's like 3 characters or 3 spaces, but there's a tab key on the keyboard, right? And so you would hit the tab key and you go in. So you have the indentation is very important in Python. BASIC, you don't need that. You don't have to have indentation, but for clarity, you can add it, just so that the programmer understands what's going on when he sees the program. So this is optional. This space here is optional here, but the space here is very strict. It has to be a tab character. And over here, similar thing. You don't have to have the space, but it's by convention. You would put space to be kind to yourself or any other programmer who's reading it. And here you can put, you can have a shorthand. You can say plus equals 3 with a semicolon. And so this plus equals is a shorthand for sum t equals sum t plus 3. What this is sum t plus equals 3, semicolon. I would like to very briefly, do a little, this is how you check to make sure that your program works. You can, this is a way of tracking your variables to make sure they'll add up to what you expect. So we're going to do it for the Python example. And this is not program code. This is what a programmer might write down on a sheet of paper to track their variables to make sure there's no bugs. So basically a way of debugging or confirming your code. So I have all the variables are listed here. I have n, because n is our index variable. And when I say index variable, I mean it goes through a sequence and it tracks the looping, so that you're not looping more times than you're expected. You control the number of loops, basically. That's pretty clear, I would hope. And it's sum t, so we have n and sum t. So it starts off with 0. We're going to put 0 in the n column. Excuse me. This is 0. The sum t variable is 0. Excuse me. And then we get to this the beginning of the loop, and n, we know that n will start with 0. So likewise, we put a 0 here, and we're going to follow the loop, and sum t is currently 0. So 0, we're not going to say 0 yet, because this is what the value will be. Whatever's on the left-hand side is going to be the final value of the calculation. So 0 is sum t, so 0 plus 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. So sum